Hey guys, hope you all are having a good day. And it's just going to go over the Gerald Ford questions that you were supposed to turn in for attendance. Make sure you got the right answers, and I'll type the answers up and share one um, as we go. Matter of fact, I'll do it right now. So I'll just make real quick here, make a copy of this and turn it into the answer sheet. That way I can post the answers and you guys have them for when you're studying for the Ford Carter quiz, which we will have on Tuesday. So we'll Google form quiz over Ford and Carter, and then we'll start Ronald Reagan. So the quiz will be your attendance check on Tuesday, and then you'll have your assignment all over the start of Ronald Reagan's presidency. All right. So what event allowed Ford to become vice president of the United States? So remember, Gerald Ford was not actually, he was just a senator at the time. And then Spiro Agnew, who was vice president, was Nixon's vice president. Um, he had to resign from the office because he was indicted for tax fraud. Um, he was convicted of that eventually. So he was convicted of tax fraud. So Nixon appointed Carter vice president. Sorry, Ford. Nixon appointed Ford vice president, was confirmed by the Senate, and he became vice president. So he was not elected to the office of vice president. How did Gerald Ford become president of the United States? Nixon resigned because of Watergate. So Gerald Ford becomes president of the United States without ever being elected either vice president or president. He's the only person to ever become president without winning one of the spots through an election. Right? Unfortunately for Mr. Ford, after he became president, the U.S. economy experienced a sudden economic drop. 1973, the economy went bad. We had stagflation, high unemployment, high inflation. What caused the sudden economic drop? OPEC, which stands for the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, um, put an oil embargo on the United States. They stopped selling us oil. And I don't know if you know a lot about American history or not. We use a little bit of oil in this country. Um, why did they put an oil embargo on the United States? Because we supported Israel. Because of the U.S. support of Israel in the Yom Kippur War. I don't know. I don't need you to remember the war, but Yom Kippur is a major Jewish holiday, and Egypt and Syria and other Middle Eastern countries all launched a surprise attack on Israel in 1973 during Yom Kippur. And then Israel was eventually able to win the war, but the United States had supported Israel with money and weapons. And so, in retaliation, OPEC put an oil embargo on the United States. So, number 4, the U.S. was being punished for support of what country? Israel. Because U.S. had supported Israel. Now, remember, Israel did not become a country until 1945, or the modern Israel was not created until 1947. And they had to fight wars immediately for their survival after that. So, under 4, the two major economic problems were unemployment and inflation. Those were the two biggest problems the United States had to face. A name was given to this new economic problem of high inflation and slow economic growth. It's called stagflation. It means a stagnant economy and high inflation. Now, y'all are juniors, so next year most of you will be taking economics. So here's your economic lesson for the day. Stagflation is the worst problem an economy can face because all the solutions to fight inflation which is prices going up. To fight inflation, you got to slow the economy down. You slow the economy down, you create unemployment. But you do that, it's a trade-off to fight inflation. To fight unemployment, you stimulate the economy. The government spends money, gives people more money, which can cause some inflation, but you get everybody back to work. So the problem with stagflation, you have high unemployment and high inflation. So if I fight inflation, unemployment just gets worse. If I fight inflation, unemployment gets worse. So since they're both high, it's a very, 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 very bad problem. That comes back. It hurts Jimmy Carter in 1976 when it comes, or 1980, the election of 1980. And we'll talk about how you fix it when we talk about Carter. What was the name of Ford's domestic program? He called it WHIP, or see, what did it say? WIN. His program was WIN. Sorry, WHIP Inflation Now. That was his one and only economic program he had when he was president. WIN. So people were walking around with bad little buttons that said WIN, WHIP Inflation Now. That was his domestic program to fix the economy. All right, number 8, the most controversial thing Gerald Ford did, and hopefully you watched the little video. The video is in the link on the timeline to explain what were the reasons Ford gave for pardoning Nixon. His reasoning was to end the long national nightmare, and he just said we needed to put it behind us. The country needed to put this behind them. This probably cost Gerald Ford the election in 1980 because it was a highly, highly unpopular move, and it allowed Nixon to escape any kind of criminal conviction or charges for the crimes he committed during Watergate. And we know he committed crimes during Watergate. But it allowed him to avoid jail time, which he probably would have got. Was Ford's pardoning of Nixon a popular move in the country? No, not at all. It was very unpopular, and like I said, probably contributed to his defeat in 1976. And then the last question: Who defeated Ford in 1976? Was a man named Jimmy Carter. He was a peanut farmer from Georgia. He ran as an outsider. That was his campaign. Hey, I was not part of Washington, D.C. I wasn't there during all of this Watergate nonsense. My hands are clean. Now, Carter was a graduate from the Naval Academy. He served on submarines. He was the governor of Georgia. And like I said, he owned a peanut farm in Georgia. That was his business. And he won the election for president in 1976. All right, so those are the questions about Gerald Ford. So I will share this with you guys, the answer key, but I just wanted to go over the questions. Okay. Also, don't forget you have the Edpuzzle, which is the economic problems of the 70s. That is also due by tomorrow, so make sure you go through that. And then on Friday, I'll post a little video to go over the answers of the Edpuzzle. But make sure you finish that. Remember, you just watch the video, and when it comes to the question, you answer the question. All right. So for tomorrow, or what will be assigned tomorrow, your attendance check are these little questions about Jimmy Carter. And guys, you'll use the timeline of Ford and Carter's presidency to answer these questions. But it's just your attendance for April 30th. Then I'm going to give you. You're also going to have another Edpuzzle. This will be due on Tuesday, but this is about the Iranian hostage crisis. So we're moving on to Jimmy Carter's presidency. Unfortunately for Jimmy Carter, he dealt with bad economic problems also. Stagflation wouldn't go away. He appointed a new chairman of the Fed who raised interest rates to record level highs to fight inflation. he became extremely unpopular. They actually, because of stagflation, they created a whole new economic measurement called the misery index. The misery index is unemployment and inflation added together. So for Jimmy Carter, his misery index was like 20, which is really high. Right now, just to give you an idea now, well, before, I haven't seen the latest. I know the economy lost 4.8% GDP last quarter, but normally, so the first, before the pandemic hit here, our misery index, our unemployment was around like 3.8 and inflation was less than 1. So our misery index was like 4 something, which is really good. And for Jimmy Carter, it was 20. That's not good for him. So you'll read about some of that stuff. And then the Iranian hostage crisis, that's kind of the last straw that kind of makes sure that Jimmy Carter was going to be a one-term president also. So, but that's your assignment for tomorrow. Your attendance check is some questions about Jimmy Carter's presidency. Use the timeline that I've already shared in Classroom, and then do the Ed puzzle for Tuesday. Hope you guys have had a good week. Hope you guys have a good weekend. Weather's supposed to be nice the rest of the weekend, or the rest of the week. Friday and Saturday and Sunday are supposed to be good. So get outside, do some fun things. Seniors, and there I know I have a couple of seniors. This will be your last assignment is the attendance and the Ed puzzle from tomorrow. And then remember, May 6th is your last day. So my 2 seniors I hope you guys have a good break when you're done, and good luck what you're doing next year. Guys, I'll be on Google Meet again tomorrow from 9:15 to 10:45 if you have any questions. So hope you guys have a good rest of your week and have a good weekend. Bye.